Hi, and welcome to the podcast. My name is Michael Yon, and in this episode, Kuntarkis shares about vampires. So, my first and obvious question is simply, do vampires actually exist?
They do exist, yes. This is the question. I've got in front of me an actual writings that I did back in 2014 in my book called The Book of Knowledge I Am Alien. And right at the beginning, it says a question. Now, I'll just read this question. I have been asked many times by different human beings from many places around your earth, did vampires really exist? And did they have the powers claimed by their legends? That is, did they bite their victims and drink their blood? And if they did exist, where are they today? And that's when I go into the answer. Nearly 30,473 years ago in your past, the legend of the vampires began. What you believe vampires to be, and what many have called the undead, are in fact a race of alien beings who exist upon a planet called Hizanin, 229,000 light years from your Earth. They do have advanced space travel, and at that time their vessels used electromagnetic energy for space travel. Their planet has a sun which is only a third in size to your Earth's sun, and because they cannot stand full daylight, their environment has an orange cloud surrounding their planet, which only allows about 30% of light onto the surface of their world. They do not have a moon, and they do not sleep like humans do. Instead, they rest for small periods at a time, and this helps them to preserve their energy levels. The age of their species is a little under 7 million years old. A human being would not survive on their world because the atmosphere contains poisonous gases. Their planet is rocky and they do not have oceans as on Earth. They do not have salt water and the air and climate is continuously warm. They only have small amounts of rain but do have fresh water on their planet's surface. As they do not drink water, nor do they consume solid matter. What they do consume is animal blood, about 1 to 2 litres per day in human terms. The reason salt water does not exist on their planet because it is highly toxic to their body. It's like the old rumours. If you pour salt water on them, they will dissolve. If they get too much sunlight, they will burn up. They are, in fact, 4 times slower than human beings, and they have no hair on their bodies at all. They are on average 6 feet 4 inches to 6 feet 8 inches tall. They have no muscle structure like humans do. The male and female of their species are similar in appearance. The only difference being the male's face is more V-shaped and the female's is more square-shaped. Their bodies are identical except for their reproductive organs. They do come into season to mate only once every 5 human years and only ever have 1 child in their lifetime. Sex to them is not perverted or unbalanced as within the human species. They see it purely for the procreation and evolution of their species. The males do not have exposed genitals like human males. Their reproductive organs are enclosed internally and only come forward during mating time. The females are physically identical to the males and only develop breasts for feeding their young when pregnant. They have 2 breasts like human females. Their reproductive organs are identical and similar to human females. The gestation period is 17 months, and the female knows exactly when the child is about to be born. Birth always takes place at home. There are no hospitals or drugs to assist in childbirth. In fact, it is so rare for any species to become ill, and if they do fall ill, it is because of what they have consumed. When the female is ready to give birth, the abdomen cavity opens up and the child comes forth. With them, there is no umbilical cord to cut and there is no pain in childbirth. Once they have given birth, the cavity closes up, and in a very short period of time, no mark remains to reveal the birth cavity. The child is fed for 2 months from the breasts of the mother, but it is not milk like human milk. From 2 months of age, the child begins feeding on the blood of an animal, just like an adult. The major physiology difference between the Hemazines and the humans is they have only one large lung. They do not breathe air as humans do, and they breathe less than half to what a human would do, meaning they take long breaths that take a long time to exhale. Their skin is soft and creamy in color, but it is at least 6 times stronger than human skin. They have 2 eyes in their heads, which is normal, but their eyes sink deep into their skulls, and they are very dark around the eyes. It's like they don't drink enough water, I would say. The pupils of their eyes are red, horizontal, jagged slits. Their mouths are particularly interesting. They have no violence towards each other. There is no rape as there is within the human species, and no one steals from another. They do not have cities as you do on Earth, but they create societies of anything up to 40,000 beings. At this present moment, they have in total 2,041,000 beings and live on 3 neighboring planets. Their houses are very different to those on Earth. Their buildings are dome-shaped, and the power supply for each city is created by each city for its needs. Every being has their own power source to create lighting, which also powers their vessels for travel. The power which runs their societies is created through electromagnetic energy that comes from a green stone mined from within their planet. These stones, or crystals, are thousands of times harder than any crystal on Earth, and they are what humans would consider perfect in form. On their world, these crystals are abundant. One crystal can create enough energy to run one of their cities for several of, say, Earth's months, and can power their vessel to travel to an Earth many times over. They do not have a buying system as your Earth does with money. All of their species work for each other, and they believe in equality for all. They have no governments or police or military, even though they have advanced technology. They do not fight wars or create wars unless they are attacked. And yes, there have been other species who have tried to conquer them, but failed. They have successfully defended themselves through the use of mind power. That is, they can project thoughts and images into the minds of the advancing enemy and create great fear within that enemy. As a result, they have no needs for guns or weapons. This is how they have won all their wars. They are telepathic and have the ability to project themselves as shadow bodies. With the shadow body, they can pass through solid matter as easily as gas filters through any porous substance. The Hemazines have a very unique ability of thought projection. They can tap into the human brain and project thoughts and pictures which can cause a human to fall into a hypnotic state. In this state, a human would not be able to recognize them as an alien being, and in this state of control, these beings can make a human do whatever they wish. Telepath is their weapon. The Hemazines faced a major dilemma of starvation over 30,000 years ago, when their animal kingdom began to die out from a rare disease. This caused them to go in search of new food sources to a number of planets, and Earth was one of these planets. They saw human beings were quite abundant and very easy to control. They researched human behavior and drank human blood from humans all over planet Earth. They even took humans back to their planet to develop them as new food sources. At this point, it is important to discuss how they feed. If you saw a Hemazine, you would see they have a small mouth with lips that are quite dark in color. But when they are about to feed, their mouths open up wide to reveal 4 long fangs, 2 on the upper jaw and 2 on the lower jaw. The lower teeth assist with gripping, while the upper teeth punctures the artery, enabling them to drink up to 1 liter of blood in about 90 seconds. Normally, their food source is not aware of what is happening. The wounds inflicted on humans mostly heal quickly, but in some cases they would not stop bleeding, and unfortunately the human would die. Try to understand, to a Hemazine, a human being was a lesser form of life, just as humans view the animals they consume as a lesser form of life. This level of thinking is limited, for all of life is precious. Your animals have feelings and emotions, as humans do, but humans choose to ignore this fact. The human was considered a lesser form of life because they killed animals to eat their flesh, whereas the Hemazines kept their animals alive and in excellent health, and only drank a little of their blood. They keep several animals for their own personal purpose. Therefore, the same animal is not bled on a daily basis, and its health can be maintained. They believed they have found the solution to their problem. The human animal was an abundant source of food which would solve their impending starvation. What they did not count on was the bacteria that existed in all human beings because of the flesh humans ate. One of the prophets, called Jesus, said, "When you eat of the dead, you become the living dead." That statement is very true, and it is why so many of your humans suffer and die in such pain from bowel cancer, stomach cancer, heart disease, and many, many more diseases to come. So, in time, the Hemazines began to see many of their people becoming ill and dying. It took them a long time to discover the cause, but they eventually realized it was the bacteria from humans that was causing them to die. In fact, it was the bacteria you call E. coli. The bacteria killed over half of their species, and it took a long time for those who survived to become well again. What they did discover was they could not drink the blood of any creature that ate of the dead, and this is why they began to conduct research with some of the other animals on your planet. Over a period of time, they selected only large vegetarian animals like elephants, deers, rhinos, giraffe, zebras, and many more to take back to their home world to develop them into a sustainable food resource. They took back many species of plants and trees, also soil, to create habitats for these animals, and have set up reserves around their cities where these animals are cared for and blood harvest from them. I must say one thing about the Hemazines. They stopped coming to your planet in 1793, and it is only recently, in the last 72 years, that they came back briefly to take some of the animals you call cows to add to their animal crop. No more animals have been taken, for they see humans as a diseased creature, deadly to their existence, and strictly to be left alone. Back to you, Michael.
Thanks, Kuntarkis. That's very interesting. I'm just curious, when you were talking about them trying the human blood, had they taken humans from Earth back to their planet and then tried? Or was there a period that they were here kind of in the shadows?
They were here in the shadows for many years, actually, right? And that's why all over the entire planet there are stories in old textbooks about these creatures that floated through the air. They can actually bring forth, like we bring forth our spirit, but they can actually take a part of their essence in solid form, and they call it a shadow, and they can literally just float through the air, and they'll actually drink that blood from that human and then go back inside the body. They don't do this all the time, but they can do it in certain circumstances.
the shadow that they express out can actually attack as well and drink the blood as well.
That is true.
Wow, that's very clever.
That is very, they've developed that. They actually developed a lot of, how would you say, different advantages for themselves where they can also be protected against being attacked. They can put, as I said, they can put these thoughts into your head and you will literally believe that you are on fire or you're being beaten. There's other vessels there shooting these massive tanks at you and your ships are being destroyed. So they just turn and run. And because they don't understand that type of, how would you say, consciousness, they've never come up against it, a lot of these people. And that's why they back off and they never come back. They don't have force fields or anything like that. You know, the Nicarons know about them. They've actually gone to their planet and they are friendly, but they don't get, how would you say, highly involved because they are a carnivore because they still drink blood. It's just the way they are. It's their way of life. It's how they survive. They've always done it.
Mm. Millions of years, pretty much the same, I guess.
Yeah.
Wow. And you said that they're slower than us. Can you explain that?
Yes, they're actually slower in their movements, but when their shadow comes out, they can move actually very fast. Their bodies don't have much muscle structure. Yet, as I said, their skin's very strong, but their movements are like, the animal called a sloth?
Yeah.
Well, they're a little bit like that, not as slow, but they're a little bit like that. But when they project their shadow, that can move very fast.
That's very interesting. I want to just say that again. So can you tell me again, the shadow, they can express it like a spirit, like an astral expression, and then it can
go and drink the blood of the victim.
And then come back to the body, main body, and
go
bring
back
that
into
blood.
the body. That's right.
Oh.
They can bring it back into the body, and because they can't see, the shadow can go right through walls. And in history, in human history, people have actually sworn that they saw this vampire manifest through a solid wall. It's even written down. It's been discovered throughout history. So, in fact, that is actually the shadow. And what's interesting, the shadow can come through the wall and open up a window to allow the creature or a door to come in. And they put a human into a hypnotic state and they don't even realize what's happening. They can even put thought projections to make the human feel that everything is peaceful, everything is fine. I'm your father, or I'm this, or I'm that. But in reality, they're simply under hypnosis.
Yeah, they're in a trance and then they're losing blood slowly.
Absolutely.
Or quickly.
Yes. And one of the reasons, and I think we don't fully understand this, but a lot of people have disappeared off this planet. And even today, there are thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. In fact, if it's millions, they go disappearing every year. Now, back, say, 20,000 years ago, this also went on. But there are people that were taken, by aliens, different species, for experiments, for workers. They even took humans to work on their planet as slaves. Just like humans went to Africa and brought back all the Africans to do slavery. It's the same thing.
Wow, that happened 30-something thousand years ago.
Absolutely, yes.
Wow.
It's been happening right throughout human history.
So those disappearances you're saying are also because of these creatures.
Absolutely.
Throughout our history. Wow.
Absolutely.
And do you think they're taking them more for slaves or for food now?
Oh, no, food.
Oh, they are? So that means they must feed them a vegan diet before that.
No. That was before they got sick. They used to take humans back to their planet and they would keep them for food sources. And they took back thousands, by the way, thousands, all over the planet so they wouldn't be missed. And they used them as their food source. But over a very small period of time, the Hemazines were becoming sick, and I mean really sick, and they were dying. by the dozens. So they had to research that. And finally they came back to it that it wasn't the virus that killed all the animals. It was actually E. coli from the human gut. And it was in the blood. It was in the blood. And humans grew used to it over thousands of years. That's from eating meat.
So what about these days when it comes to getting humans?
Well, they don't.
They don't. Oh, I thought you said
No,
you did.
no, mate, no.
Didn't you say that they've been going missing, and so is that for slavery?
No. That was other alien worlds.
Yeah.
Yes, other alien worlds. See, they stopped coming to Earth in 1793, and it was only recently, in the last 72 years, that they came back simply to take many, many cows, because cows are vegetarian, and they added them to their animal crops. But no humans were taken. No.
So can you explain in more detail how each of them, because they have their own places that they live, I guess they're huts with doors, and they don't each have their own private farm where they have these animals. They share somehow, don't they?
Oh, no, they're spread over the entire planet, and there's 3 neighboring planets. They have actually 3 worlds, and they exist on these 3 worlds that are very close to each other, like a triangle in a way. And the vibrational energy keeps the 3 planets in alignment. And what they do is they travel back and forth from planet to planet. And what they've done all over the planet, they've set up hundreds of reserves. And they've taken trees from planet Earth. They've taken soil by the megatons of soil, of rock, trees, bushes, everything you could possibly think of. And they've actually re-established it on their own planet. And over years, they've learnt how to harvest it so it survives their type of world. It took them a while, but they apparently got over the issue. So now these reserves exist on the 3 planets, but they're all over the entire planet. And people all just get into it and help with it, and they extract so much blood out of every animal, and naturally it's kept in a freezing type situation so it doesn't go off, and they drink it.
Oh, really? So the way that people would get milk to their door,
absolutely,
in the past. Oh, I was thinking they had to, go somewhere and hypnotize a cow, and then no, okay.
And the animals have just accepted it because they're looked after so well. And all the animals are vegetarians, so they don't have to feed dead animals to them. And all they have to do is feed food. And they even came back to Earth, to see what these creatures ate. So that's why they made sure they had the right type of food source so the animals would survive.
And so now they're thriving, right?
They're thriving, yes, as a species. One of the things that's really interesting is I mentioned it, but I didn't go into it. I just want to mention this. They have crystals that are as large as some of the crystals, like quartz crystal, on this Earth. And the difference being, their crystals are normally anything from about, say, 10 centimeters high in length, I think, to about nearly 3 meters tall, not beyond that. And they grow deep underground continuously. And they harvest some of these crystals by cutting them off. When they bring them up, they are then put through an unusual machine that shapes them so they fit within a turbo that drives their spacecrafts. And also it goes into a lighting system for all the lighting that is needed on their planet. And it literally will sustain for months and months and months. When they find that the crystal is, say, becoming weaker, it is just released onto another one that is already set in place. So there's no blackouts, as to put it, not like here on Earth. If lightning hits one of the poles or something, we might not have power for 2 or 3 hours. But these crystals, Michael, they are at least 100 times, if not more, stronger than the normal quartz crystal. And they're about 4 to 5 times harder than any diamond on earth. We would not have the cutting tools to cut them. Lasers, grinders, saws, whatever they want to use, would not cut these crystals. And they're actually not an emerald green, they're like a tree green. It's like not a dark green. And what they do is they beam. When they're underground and you come down and you see them, while they're connected to the earth, or not the earth, sorry, to their planet, they are beaming constantly. And if you could actually grow them out of the earth, you would have this beaming of green light. It would be absolutely unbelievable. But when they're cut off, they don't beam anymore, but the power that is released from them drives their ships at light speed, which is incredible. And that's how they, the Hemazines, drive their ships and power their entire planet.
It makes me think, there must be several civilizations that have powered their worlds with crystals. Is that true?
To my knowledge, the only other world that I know of at this time is the Ilias. But they don't do it really anymore. They are now using what the Nicarons use, is living energy. The Nicarons have swapped technology to a certain point and taught them how to actually utilize it. And even today, they are still learning to adapt to it, because it will take, if not hundreds of years, several thousand years to obtain that type of ability. So they still use crystals to a point, but it's mainly using now living energy, and it's beginning to work for them. It's like solar. You know, if you have enough sun and you have your solar panels, you can actually run your entire house off solar. You don't need electricity. You don't need to keep raping the earth of all its precious minerals. You can set up a system on every single house, which unfortunately costs many thousands of dollars. And you can have a backup system where your energy is stored in these batteries. And then you can use those batteries to run your entire household.
And this is something that early on a lot of other aliens would have gone through as well, I guess.
Very true. Oh, one thing I must actually add this. Very, very interesting. The Hemazines, when they came here, for some unknown reason, they end up mating with some humans. And naturally, you have genetic transfer, and you can cause a few little problems. Today, we have people, even today, who drink blood from humans and animal. Very secret in society. And they believe that it keeps them young. But apparently, the reason they do this to a point is because genetics follow through generation to generation to generation and can come out at a certain period in evolution. So what happens, those genetics come out and people believe that they're vampires, and they even act like vampires. They even wear false teeth and bite people on the neck. It's recorded in history. So there's a lot of strange things going on. And that's one of the reasons why I was encouraged to write about the legends of vampires. Who were they? Where did they come from? And what's really interesting is they're aliens, extraterrestrial beings from another world, nearly 220,000 light years from Earth.
Wow. So, have we covered it? Is that about everything? Is there anything more you could share?
The only thing I wanted to say, I wanted to just give this little remark. Just one sec. Here it is. This is just a message from me as Kuntarkis. Be free of your human ego, and you'll be free of your self-created limitations. You will grow in consciousness, and truth itself will manifest within you and around you. You will indeed become a true human being. I believe from the essence of my being, if every human being on this planet suddenly took a realization or had an epiphany.
Epiphany.
Okay, pretty close. I like that. And would say, no longer can I live the old. I need to change my thinking. I need to grow. Then we would have a leap in evolution consciously. But we are so caught up in our everyday life because we live such a monetary, physical existence. And we don't know anything else. We're all searching. We all want the truth. But I tell you now, there are a lot of people, when they start to discover the truth, they become scared. And what they do, they close the door and they go back to their old ways. And they pass on the same limitations onto the next generation and so on. The only way is to change ourselves first by getting rid of our fears. Then there's a movement for change. And it's a good thing, Michael.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, thank you so much, Kuntarkis, for sharing that. Very, very interesting. Yet another episode of our podcast where people would not have known what they're hearing, what they're listening, you know what I mean?
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
That's great.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's an interesting. They're very interesting beings, mate. They're very interesting. And I meant to say it was also 229,000 light years from Earth, not 220. I think I said it's 229,000 light years from our Earth.
Right. I'll program that into my spaceship when I want to fly by and have a look.
Absolutely, fly by and say hello.
Hello.
Looks
Looks dark down there. What was it like for the Nicarons who we've spoken about before? What was it like when they first interacted with them, and what happened? What was that about?
That's a bit of an interesting story, actually, because I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but I was a part of that when it actually happened, and so was my two brothers and my sister. We were sent as a convoy to have what would you say, like an ambassador meeting with them, and find out if there is anything that they wish to understand or need or anything like that. And that's part of the job of the Nicaron civilization. When they find out about new worlds, they go and have a visit. Naturally, they're invited first. You don't just turn up. And when we got there, we were introduced to their, I suppose, their high order leader, what they call them. And we had a discussion, and finding out that they drank blood of an animal, poor old Kanag, he found that very, very hard to accept. And he sometimes would say a few things, and then he'd humbly apologize because he couldn't help himself. And the Hemazines took it quite well. They did not get offended.
Before you go on, sorry, how did you manage to be communicating in the same language?
Oh, it's all universal, mate. It's totally universal.
Sanskrit.
They have the same, Sanskrit. Wow. They have the same language. It just seems to be something within the universe that the one language follows suit.
Wow.
But there are, the Hemazines didn't evolve like, say, the Muhars from like an insect, in a sense, a large insect. They evolved just like humanity. Nicarons, the Ilias, and their evolution, they were very aware consciously. Now, the funny thing is, they have really advanced technology, not nowhere near what the Nicarons have or the Ilias, but they do have highly advanced technology. They're probably something like, at least 5 to 10,000 years ahead of, say, humanity. But their buildings look like Stone Age, and everything is built from rock. They have a way of melting rock and recreating it into walls, floors, ceilings, everything like that. And they put windows in, and all their windows are yellow. That's really every window in the entire world is a light yellow. Now, I think that could, and I'm not sure, I think that has something to do with not allowing certain light in.
Yeah.
I think that's the possibility. But the communication was easy, but what was hard when it came to eating, because they couldn't offer the food that Nicarons would eat, like fruits and vegetables and things like that, or grains. They weren't prepared for something like that because they don't consume anything like that. All they consume is blood from their animals, and to them, that's fine. So that was a little bit tense when they were drinking blood.
Well, how long were you guys there?
Oh, probably, if you look at human time, probably for about 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And I remember when Kanag, we said our goodbyes, and how you say your goodbyes to a Hemazine is both your hands go on their shoulders. You go in between their arms, and their arms go on the outside, never the other way around.
Onto your shoulders.
That's right. That's how they greet, and that's how they give their farewells. Very interesting. Unusual, but very interesting. So, but when Kanag got back onto the spaceship, the first thing he did was go to the kitchen and have some food because he was starving. It was very, very funny. It's just funny. Very funny.
And so, is there anything that they were happy for you to offer? Was there anything you could offer them?
We offered them wisdom. We offered them a way of going beyond having blood, but they wouldn't take it. They were very happy in what they were about. They felt very peaceful. They felt balanced. They didn't want to step beyond that. They lost half their civilization because they were drinking blood of contaminated blood. It's like getting a blood transfusion, mate. You know, you have an accident and you need blood, and suddenly you have blood being put into you that's contaminated. It could have anything from herpes, HIV, AIDS, anything, any disease. And naturally, it would flow through your system, causing you to have all sorts of problems. Well, they drank the blood of humans that had E. coli flowing through their blood. And it affected them so bad that it nearly wiped out their entire planet. If they didn't discover what it was and they just kept drinking the human blood, it could have killed every Hemazine on that planet. In fact, the whole 3 worlds.
Wow.
But they discovered what it was, which was good.
And Earth was the only planet they ever came to take goods?
Now that is something that I would have to go in and really dig deep to find out. But I would say that they did have other worlds prior. It's very possible. But for some unknown reason, the animals that they have had were very different and they drank their blood. See, it's not that they specifically went out to have human blood, but to them, humans were so abundant and they thought they struck gold. So, it's just no different to say, humanity killing 1 or 2 billion animals per year to consume.
Yeah.
It's the same principle.
Can I ask again, how long were they here on Earth trying out? They were here for a while, weren't they? Like, what did you say?
They were here for several thousand years because they originally came, I think it was about 30,473 years in the human past. That's when the vampires began their legend here on Earth. So they would have been here for quite a few thousand years.
Yeah. So there were not all of them. There were some back on the planet that just didn't have enough food.
Absolutely.
There were some on the planet.
There would have only been, like, say, their spaceships. They could have had one ship. They could have had 10 ships. I have no idea. I never really looked into that. But if they had them coming to this planet, they were coming here to research and gather food. And when they came across planet Earth, over a period of time, they discovered that the locals mainly were human. And they found that they were abundant. So they thought, they thought they hit the jackpot. And they start taking humans back to their world over that period of time.
Over the period of, say, several thousand years.
It could have been 10,000 years. Over 10,000 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
They were pretty secretive, pretty
Oh, they would be in that type of situation, absolutely.
hiding and not being known. And
yes.
Yeah. Do their spaceships, can they go invisible?
Yes, they can actually. Yes. It's not that they're invisible the way we would take invisibility. They had the ability to cloak. It was actually in the metal structure of their ship where they could actually press a button, if that was the case, and they could literally transform their ship from, say, dark metal to some other color that would actually make them appear to be invisible. They would have had that technology, yes.
Right.
Because they wanted to keep secret. That's natural. They were very a shy type of species because they weren't violent. But they would do things to protect their world. But they weren't actually a violent race. And even when they came down and, say, tried out a few humans, they weren't actually violent in trying to drink their blood. They would simply see how easy it was to hypnotize, to control. And then they would drink their blood, and they found their blood very rich. And they needed rich blood, which gave them the nutrients that would sustain their body, just like anything. It's like us. We can say, being vegetarians, if we ate nothing but salads all the time, then we would suffer certain things in our body because we need protein. So it'd be the same with the hemazines.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, Kuntarkis. This has been a very unique episode. In closing, you can find more on Kuntarkis at his website etcconsciousness.com. If you have any questions or comments or would like to book some time with him, simply email kuntarkis@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening. My name is Michael Yon, and stay tuned for more.